Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of r/malicious compliance. My appointment was cancelled for being 5 minutes late? I guess I have to reschedule. This happened about 4 years ago, when I got a summer job at my university. The job was working for professors that I had worked with before, and they asked me last minute to teach a summer workshop to 9th and 10th graders. So with less than 2 weeks before the camp starts, I have a bunch of paperwork to do first, including clearances that say I can work with kids. One of these is an official FBI check for which they need my fingerprints. Well, I needed to do the physical fingerprinting right away in order to get the result in time. Luckily, I was able to book a fingerprinting appointment for that Friday, booked 24 hours in advance, as required, which would be just barely enough time to get the result. That Friday I catch the subway to campus and it's atrociously slow. I'll admit I should have planned for this, the subway here is always behind. Anyway, I end up slightly late getting to campus, so I literally run to the police station and enter the front room at exactly 5 minutes after my appointment time. I know this because, as I stepped through the door, I felt my phone buzz with what turned out to be a "your appointment has been cancelled" email. I speak to the security and cop behind bulletproof glass inside and I learn the appointment was cancelled after he checks my confirmation number. Apparently, that they are automatically cancelled if you're not checked in within 5 minutes. Obviously, this is outrageous, but I'm usually a patient guy. I ask if I can book a new appointment. That's no good since it would have to be Monday or later. So I grab a coffee from across the street and return to sit inside the police station to try and solve this with some Googling while I slip into a more and more frantic state of frustration. I can't find anywhere in the city that can fingerprint me before Monday. But here's what really pushed me over the edge. While I'm sitting there, at this point 30 minutes past my appointment time, someone else comes in for fingerprints. She shows up 5 minutes early. They take her in immediately, and she's out before her appointment was even scheduled to begin. The entire thing took her about 2 minutes. I point out to the cop behind the glass, as politely as I can, that clearly someone could see me right now because her appointment is already over. Why can't I have the current slot? But the cop insists that since my appointment was cancelled, my registration info was no longer in the system and I can't be seen today. That's when the idea comes to me and I confirm with him that showing up early is not a problem, because they would have my appointment and registration info in the system. You see where I'm going with this. So I quietly sit back down and take out my phone. About 10 minutes later, I calmly approach him again and say, "Hello, I have a new appointment to be fingerprinted. I'm about 72 hours early." I have never seen such an exasperated sigh in my life. But he checked my new confirmation number and everything was in order. Within 10 minutes, I was walking back out after getting fingerprinted. Next story. You don't want a woman working on your car? That's fine, but you're going to be waiting a long time. Many years ago, I worked at a car dealership. The attached service garage was small and I was the only licensed mechanic. I would occasionally have issues with male customers. They would second-guess my diagnoses, watch me while I worked on their cars from the bay door, double-check my work in the parking lot, etc. I didn't deal with customers directly and would often get my apprentice to pull cars in and out of the shop for me. This morning in particular, we were busy. The lot jockey and apprentice were occupied helping wash cars for delivery and driving to a customer's house. The service advisor left a work order and keys at the parts counter, and I went out the front through service to get the car. It was in for a service campaign, which was an update done with a scan tool. It takes about 10 minutes. The customer was planning on waiting and was sitting in service. When he saw me with his keys in my hand, he immediately stood up, alarmed. I was hustling, so I walked right by him and out the door. I missed the following conversation, according to the service advisor, also female. Customer: who is that chick? Is she going to be working on my car? I don't want her working on my car. Advisor: the other tech is out at the moment, so it's going to be quite a wait until someone else can look at your car. Customer: that's fine. I'll wait for a guy. I don't want that chick touching my car. Advisor: politely, understood. The advisor comes to let me know, and I pull the car out and put the work order and keys back on the counter, nonplussed. Half an hour passes. The apprentice is still away, and I am happily working on something else, bringing other cars in and out. The customer is now watching each and every person who comes through the door. The high school cooperative student comes in to get something signed. The customer's keys are still sitting on the desk. It's been about an hour now. Customer, hey, why hasn't my car gone in yet? Can't you get this guy to do it? Advisor, no, sorry. He's just a cooperative student, so he is not allowed to drive the cars due to liability and insurance concerns. Customer, just get someone else to bring the car in and he can do the work. This was supposed to take 10 minutes. Advisor, sorry, sir. He's just a high school student doing his cooperative, he's not approved to perform warranty work. Only licensed techs and apprentices can do the recall. The car jockey returns. The advisor hands the car jockey a different set of keys, and he brings yet another car into the shop for me. The customer is becoming incensed. Customer, I've been sitting here for over an hour and I've watched 5 cars go in before mine. My appointment was for 8 a.m., this is getting ridiculous, blah blah blah. At this point, he says that he literally doesn't care who does the recall, but that it has to be a guy. The service advisor starts listing off the names of the men who work in the dealership, then saying why they can't perform the recall. Well, there's Herman, but he's just the car jockey. He doesn't know how to work on cars. Then there's Jeet, but he's about 17. I wouldn't want him doing the recall, personally. I guess we could ask Mike, but Mike is the parts guy, he doesn't know how to use the scan tool. The detailers are men, but they know nothing about cars. The customer is fuming at this point and demands to talk to the service manager. The manager comes out of his office and guides the customer into the garage. He's pretty old school, lights up a cigarette standing at the end of my bay, and points at me. That's my best technician. Those guys take orders from her. You can either wait for her to finish what she's working on, and then you can ask if she's still willing to do your work, or you can take your car somewhere else. The guy was pretty shook up at this point and he took his car and left, 2 hours after he'd first arrived. I don't think we ever saw him again, which was not much of a loss, all things considered. That manager in particular always stuck up for me and took my side. The service advisor has this very deadpan sense of humor. She knew full well it would easily be an hour before the apprentice would return from his errand, and that no one else could do the recall. This was not the first sexist we had encountered. Next story. You don't want veggies in your chicken soup? Got it, kids. Kids are awesome at malicious compliance, but it is a two-way street. My kids can be picky eaters at times. My wife made some damn good chicken soup, but the kids were complaining that there were veggies in their chicken soup. They hate veggies, veggies make them sick, and they wanted my wife to pick them out of the soup. We tried to tell them that good chicken soup needs veggies to taste good, but they were being stubborn. I'm sure other parents can understand. I told the kids, if you really hate the taste of veggies, I'll make soup tomorrow, and you guys can make sure I only put stuff in you like. They liked that idea at the time. The next day, I get the pot filled with water, all the typical soup ingredients out, and gathered the kids. I asked for their approval on every item. Chicken, yes. Salt, yes. Black pepper, no. Gross. Too spicy. Celery, no. I can't even stand the smell. Onions, no. It went on with that, with them rejecting parsley, bay leaves, and other veggies. The total contents of the pot ended up being chicken, water, salt, noodles. After the soup was done cooking, I served it up and they excitedly started to eat. A few funny faces later, and one of them said, "It tastes weird, this isn't very good." I said, "But I only put in everything you guys approved. I think, from now on, I should make the soup, right?" They looked at each other and said, "Can we have mom's soup instead?" Since that day, they haven't complained about finding veggies mixed in the food. Sure, they almost always eat around a carrot or green pea, but they understand that it adds flavor. Next story. Smug guy wants to order for the table, so I make sure he gets his wish. I worked as a server for a small brand new family-owned restaurant. The place was one step below white tablecloth and had a bar on one side with the restaurant on the other. The owners were awesome and provided industry professionals to train us on how best to treat a customer and maximize our tips. As an example of how effective this training was, on opening day I dropped an entire tray of drinks down a woman's back, yet this family returned several more times and would only let me serve them. Owner brought them a parka the first time they returned. One technique we were taught was to establish who was paying from social cues and make sure they are happy. If a couple comes in and you believe the man is paying, make the woman feel like a queen. When it's time to pay, she'll likely encourage a higher tip. Incredibly effective. As I finish taking an order, I notice a family of 4 being sat in my section and stop by immediately to introduce myself. My assessment is this: husband and wife, very nicely dressed, their beautiful early 20s daughter, my age, and what I gather is her boyfriend wearing a suit and tie. Dad is very clearly paying, but aspiring businessman here interrupts mom when she's ordering her drink to inform me he'll be ordering for the table. If looks could kill, the father would have taken out this young man and probably 10 people in the bar area. Oh, buddy, your night is not going to go the way you thought. Every time I returned to the table, I would face him, only look at and talk to him, turning my back to the father. Daughter asked for something, I don't remember what, and without ever acknowledging her, I asked him, may she have that? He barely stammered out a yes. When I brought the bill, I set it right in front of him. They hung around for a while and I continued to check in and refill drinks while the bill remained untouched. I think Dad was making him sweat. Eventually, Dad grabs the bill and puts his card in. I brought back the receipt and thanked the young man for coming in and walked away. I was returning from another table when they were getting up from the table and the young guy moved to the door at a speed that made lightning look slow. The other 3 were all smiles and the dad looks across the dining room and mouthed, "Thank you." I gave him a smile and a nod and continued on my way. The tip amount is a number I don't remember, but I know it was good. Really good. It must have been a small wedding because I never received an invite. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel or posts.